Yeah, exactly. Thank you to Congresswoman Frankel and especially Congresswoman Wild for shining this desperately needed light on in vitro fertilization. We're here for two urgent reasons. First, it's critical that voters understand what the threat that this Republican march to a national abortion ban means, especially for families relying on IVF. Second, it's vital that we pass Congresswoman Wild's Access to Family Building Act to protect IVF and reproductive care. And I would encourage all of my colleagues here as the founding co-chair of the Family Builders Caucus to join the caucus so that we can make sure that we unite together to push to ensure access to IVF and other fertility services. Alabama's ruling is just the latest domino to fall since Donald Trump and Republicans destroyed our reproductive rights. Now we clearly see how Dobbs emboldens the fetal personhood movement, bolstering absurd claims that embryos must be protected as children. It defies common and medical sense. But let me tell you about the real-world implications for families like mine who relied on IVF. For starters, let's be very clear. Infertility is a disease. It affects 1 of every 8 American couples. Throughout my public life, I fought to treat it like one, to lift the stigma from those struggling with fertility. But far-right MAGA extremists are once more taking us backward. Some of you might know my IVF story. My husband and I had trouble conceiving when I was only 29 years old. But I was finally able to conceive through IVF, and we had our incredible twins, Rebecca and Jake. Some of you know Rebecca. They are both healthy young adults now who will turn 25 in May. Seeing this struggle up close, I fought for years. We have a younger child also who was conceived naturally. So sometimes things happen in miraculous ways. Seeing this struggle up close, I fought for years to help expand access to health insurance coverage for the prohibitively expensive fertility treatments that make it only accessible to those who can afford it. And as a breast cancer survivor, I'm also especially concerned with how a diagnosis and necessary treatment affects a survivor's ability to start a family. For so many survivors like me with a BRCA gene mutation or other forms of cancer, IVF can be a godsend. Yet now it's clouded in uncertainty. The angst doesn't stop there, though. There are so many levels and depths to the potential and likely blockage of access for in vitro fertilization. And I will share with you what is likely looming in the future for my own family. My daughters and son will need to be tested for the BRCA mutation. If they carry the gene, they can go through IVF when they decide to start their family. And thanks to genetic research, the embryos can be tested, and those without the BRCA mutation can be implanted, ending the cycle of generational increased cancer risks in our family. Can you imagine what giving personhood to embryos will do? It will cause more cancer and death in more families. The Alabama Supreme Court decision and the push for a national abortion ban will also make fertility preservation for cancer patients much, much harder. That's why my cancer survivorship bill, which I encourage all of you to co-sponsor, expands Medicaid coverage so cancer patients aren't forced to forfeit parenthood to stay alive. Any state with so-called personhood laws can be the new Alabama, a state where couples are now in chaos about how and when and whether they can start a family. We all deserve the freedom to control our own bodies and future, and choosing in vitro fertilization, birth control, or abortion is our decision, not one that judges or politicians should decide. So we must fight for our freedoms and make sure all of our friends and neighbors know the stakes. And here in Washington, we must pass the Access to Family Building Act. Women's lives and future hang in the balance. Thank you so much.